Starlight Keep HFY presents Starlight Keep. Chapter 3. Humanity. The soft glow of the station's artificial dawn filtered through the viewport of Garrick's quarters. He stood before the mirror, adjusting his uniform with practiced ease. Today promised to be challenging. The recent anomalies in unauthorized access had escalated, and he needed to brief his security teams. A chime at his door drew his attention. "Enter," he called out. The door slid open to reveal Lyra Starwhisper, the station's alien mystic. Her ethereal presence was accentuated by her flowing robes, adorned with symbols of her order. Her eyes, a deep amethyst, held a wisdom that belied her youthful appearance. "Chief Stonehelm," she greeted with a slight bow. "I come bearing news from the currents unseen." Garrick raised an eyebrow. "Good morning to you too, Lyra. What brings you here?" She stepped inside, the door closing softly behind her. There are whispers among the energies that flow through Starlight Keep. A disruption approaches, one that could unsettle the balance. He crossed his arms, attentive. "Any specifics?" "My teams have been on edge with the recent security breaches." She shook her head slowly. "The visions are fragmented, but I sense that the key lies with the humans aboard." Garrick frowned. "What do you mean?" "Your kind has a resilience, a spark that burns brightly, especially in the face of adversity," Lyra explained. "It may be the catalyst needed to confront the coming challenges." He considered her words. "I'll keep that in mind. Thank you for the warning." She offered a serene smile. "Trust in your instincts, Chief. They serve you well." With that, she departed as gracefully as she had arrived. Garrick exhaled, turning back to the mirror. "A disruption," he muttered. "Just what we need." Later that day, in the bustling corridors of the Crystal Caverns marketplace, Garrick met with his security team. The caverns were alive with merchants from across the galaxy, their stalls filled with exotic goods and artifacts. The air was thick with the scent of exotic wares and the hum of negotiations in countless languages. "Listen up," Garrick addressed his officers. "We've had increased reports of unauthorized access and now possible sabotage. Stay vigilant, especially around critical systems. Rotate patrols and double-check all clearances." As his team dispersed, Garrick noticed Althea weaving through the crowd, her presence unmistakable amidst the throng. She seemed preoccupied, her gaze fixed on a distant point. He approached her. "Althea? Everything all right?" She turned, a hint of relief in her eyes upon seeing him. "Garrick, I was just looking for you." "Well, you found me," he said with a reassuring smile. "What's on your mind?" She leaned in slightly, her voice lowered. "I detected an anomaly in the station's navigational array, a subtle distortion that could indicate tampering." His expression hardened. "Sabotage?" "Possibly," she confirmed. "I tried to trace it, but whoever is responsible is adept at covering their tracks." Garrick nodded. "Let's head to the command center. We can analyze the data there." As they made their way, Althea observed him closely. "Your ability to adapt to these situations is remarkable," she commented. He glanced at her. "Comes with the territory. Humans are nothing if not adaptable." "Indeed," she mused. "Your resilience is something many species find intriguing." He chuckled. "Is that a polite way of saying we're stubborn?" "Perhaps," she replied with a hint of a smile. "But it's more than that. You confront challenges head-on, even when the odds are against you." They arrived at the command center, a hub of activity with holographic displays and personnel monitoring various systems. Garrick led her to a console, and together they delved into the navigational data. Here, Althea pointed to a series of fluctuations. These readings indicate manual interference. Garrick analyzed the information. If we cross-reference this with access logs, we might pinpoint the source. As they worked, Althea could see he had a keen focus and avid determination. Despite the complexity of the situation, he navigated the systems with ease, his mind quickly forming strategies. "You're quite proficient with our technology," she remarked. He shrugged modestly. "I've had to learn quickly. Human tech isn't always compatible with the diverse systems on this station." "Yet you manage," she said appreciatively. "Your species adapts swiftly to new environments and challenges." "It's in our nature," he acknowledged. "We evolved by facing and overcoming obstacles." She regarded him thoughtfully. "It's a quality that many admire, and perhaps fear." Before he could respond, an alert sounded throughout the command center. A voice came over the intercom. "Attention all personnel. Power fluctuations detected in Sector 7. Possible system failure imminent." Garrick's eyes narrowed. "That's the sector housing the environmental controls." Althea's expression turned serious. "If those systems fail, it could compromise life support for several decks." He activated his communicator. "All units, this is Chief Stonehelm. Mobilize to Sector 7 immediately. Initiate containment protocols." Turning to Althea, he said, "I could use your help." She nodded without hesitation. "Lead the way." As they raced through the corridors, the lights flickered ominously. Crew members hurried to their stations, a mix of urgency and controlled panic in the air. Upon reaching Sector 7, they were met with a scene of chaos. Sparks erupted from exposed conduits, and the hum of the environmental systems was erratic. Thorin Ironstar was already on site, barking orders at his engineering team. "Get those circuits stabilized. We need to reroute the power." "Thorin," Garrick called out. "What's the situation?" The engineer wiped sweat from his brow. "Some blasted surge overloaded the systems. We're minutes away from a full shutdown." Althea stepped forward. "I can interface with the core systems, but I'll need access to the main terminal." Thorin hesitated, then relented. "Fine. At this point, I'll take any help." She moved to the terminal, her fingers dancing over the controls. "There's a corruption in the code. It's spreading like a virus." Garrick watched as she navigated the complex data streams. "Can you isolate it?" "I'm trying," she replied, her focus intense. "But it's adapting to my attempts." An idea struck Garrick. "Let me try something." He accessed a secondary console, inputting a series of commands. Thorin peered over his shoulder. "What are you doing?" "Creating a virtual sandbox," Garrick explained. "If we can trap the corrupt code inside, we can purge it without affecting the main systems." Althea glanced at him, impressed. "That's clever." "Thank my cyber warfare training," he said wryly. They worked in tandem, Althea guiding the code into the sandbox, Garrick reinforcing the containment protocols. "Almost there," she whispered. "Now!" he exclaimed, executing the purge sequence. The lights stabilized, and the erratic hum of the systems returned to normal. A collective sigh of relief swept through the team. Thorin let out a hearty laugh. "Well done, both of you." Althea stepped back from the terminal, exhaling slowly. "That was intense." Garrick smiled. "Not bad for a stubborn human, eh?" She met his gaze. "Not bad at all." As the crisis subsided, they convened in a briefing room to assess the situation. "This wasn't a random malfunction," Garrick stated firmly. "Someone planted that code." Thorin grunted in agreement. "Sabotage, plain and simple." Althea added, "And sophisticated at that. It adapted to my interventions, a sign of advanced programming. Garrick leaned forward. We need to identify the culprit and their motive, but more importantly, we need to safeguard the station. Thorin eyed him. Got any more tricks up your sleeve? Plenty, Garrick replied, but I'll need everyone's cooperation. Althea placed a hand on the table. You have mine. Thorin nodded. And mine. Garrick felt a surge of determination. All right then. Let's show whoever's behind this what humans, and our allies, are capable of. Later, as the team dispersed to carry out their tasks, Althea lingered. You handled the crisis exceptionally well, she told Garrick. He shrugged modestly. Just doing my job. No, she insisted. It was more than that. Your quick thinking and adaptability made the difference. He looked at her thoughtfully. Maybe, but it was our combined efforts that saved the day. She smiled softly. Perhaps it's the synergy of our strengths. Perhaps, he agreed. A comfortable silence settled between them before she spoke again. You mentioned cyber warfare training earlier. Is that common among humans? In certain roles, yes, he explained. We place a lot of emphasis on being versatile. In unpredictable situations, adaptability can mean survival. She nodded. It's a trait that serves you well. He chuckled. Coming from someone who can manipulate cosmic energies, that's high praise. Althea's eyes sparkled with mirth. We each have our talents. True, he conceded. And together, we're a great team. Indeed, she agreed. I look forward to our continued collaboration. He extended his hand. To safeguarding Starlight Keep. She accepted the gesture, their hands clasping firmly. To unity in the face of adversity. As they parted ways, Garrick smiled as he reflected on the day's events. Humans were but one of many species aboard the station, yet time and again, it was their tenacity and willingness to confront the unknown that set them apart. Lyra's words echoed in his mind, the spark that burns brightly. He made his way to the observation deck, where the vast expanse of space stretched out before him. Stars glimmered like distant beacons beyond Starlight Keep. Althea joined him moments later, her presence a serene contrast to his contemplative stance. Admiring the view? She asked. Something like that, he replied, thinking about how small we are in the grand scheme of things. Perhaps, she mused, but even the smallest star can illuminate the darkest night. He glanced at her, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. Is that an elven proverb? An observation, she said, remembering her answer to their earlier conversations. They stood side by side, two souls thinking deeply. Do you ever wonder what the future holds? He asked softly. Often, she admitted, but I've learned that the journey is just as important as the destination. He nodded thoughtfully. Spoken like a true navigator. She tilted her head, her gaze meeting his. And you, ever the explorer, charting paths where none existed before. Guess we're not so different after all, he said. Perhaps that's the true measure of humanity, she suggested. The ability to bridge gaps and forge connections. He considered her words. Maybe you're right.